What started as a simple homemade apple pie became a friendship that neither of them ever expected. In today's heartwarming 1800s American story, a kind woman brings a pie to her widowed neighbor, only to hear a surprising remark that stays with her long after she leaves. As the seasons pass, their lives become connected in ways that prove kindness can heal even the loneliest hearts. This touching tale is filled with warmth, friendship, and the simple joys of small-town life on the American frontier. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another inspiring story. Now sit back, relax, and let's get started. The autumn sun hung low over the rolling fields of Iowa in 1883, casting long golden shadows across the countryside. Eleanor Harper wiped flour from her hands as the scent of fresh apple pie drifted through her small farmhouse kitchen. The harvest had been generous that year, and her orchard trees bent beneath the weight of ripe fruit. As she removed the pie from the oven, her thoughts wandered to Thomas Whitaker, the widowed farmer who lived alone beyond the creek. Since his wife's passing 3 years earlier, his once cheerful home had grown quiet. Though neighbors spoke kindly of him, few stopped by anymore. Feeling a tug of sympathy, Eleanor wrapped the warm pie in a cloth and set off along the dusty road leading to his farm. Thomas greeted her with surprise when he opened the door. The weathered lines on his face softened at the sight of the pie. "Miss Harper, this is mighty kind of you," he said, stepping aside to let her enter. Inside, the house was neat but lonely, filled only with the steady ticking of a grandfather clock. He brewed coffee while she sliced the pie, and soon they sat by the fireplace sharing stories. Thomas spoke of the early days of the town, of wagon journeys across the prairie, and of the wife he still missed every day. Eleanor listened quietly, noticing how rarely he smiled and how much he seemed to enjoy simple company. The afternoons slipped away faster than either expected. As Eleanor gathered her shawl and prepared to leave, Thomas escorted her to the door. The cool autumn breeze rustled the fallen leaves around the porch. Looking at the nearly empty pie dish, he chuckled warmly and shook his head. "Miss Eleanor," he said with a grin, "if I were 20 years younger, I'd marry you for baking such a fine pie." Eleanor's cheeks turned pink as she laughed, unsure how to answer. She offered a playful curtsy before heading down the path. Yet during the walk home, with the sunset glowing across the horizon, she found herself smiling at the memory of his words. As the weeks passed, Eleanor found more reasons to visit the Whitaker farm. Sometimes she brought fresh bread, sometimes jars of preserves, and sometimes she simply stopped by to share conversation. The lonely silence that had once filled Thomas's home slowly gave way to laughter and companionship. They spent long evenings on the porch watching the prairie grass sway beneath the setting sun. Thomas told stories of his youth, of cattle drives, county fairs, and the hardships of building a life on the frontier. Eleanor spoke of her family, her orchard, and her dreams. What began as neighborly kindness grew into a friendship that both treasured more than they dared admit. Winter arrived early that year, covering the countryside in deep snow. One December evening, a fierce storm swept across the plains. Concerned for Thomas, Eleanor carried a basket of food through the snowdrifts to his farmhouse. She found him struggling to chop firewood in the bitter cold. Together, they brought wood inside and sat near the crackling fire. Thomas looked at her thoughtfully before retrieving a small wooden box from a shelf. Inside rested a silver brooch that had belonged to his late wife. "She always believed good people were heaven's greatest blessing," he said quietly, "and these past months, you've been one of mine." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears as she accepted the keepsake. Though neither spoke of marriage again, their bond deepened with every passing season. The town soon noticed the change in Thomas. The sorrow that had weighed upon him for years seemed lighter, replaced by peace and purpose. They remained devoted friends for the rest of his life, sharing holidays, harvests, and countless evenings together. Years later, whenever Eleanor baked an apple pie, she remembered the widowed farmer whose simple joke had led to a friendship more precious than either had ever expected. And in that memory, she always found a warm smile waiting for her.